I decided to review the article Virginia's Operating Standards of Quality by Chris Duncombe and Michael Cassidy, January 2016, from the Commonwealth Institute. The authors explained the standards of quality and how they're designed as a formula for supporting Virginia school divisions, and they pointed out how the SOQ's formula uses the minimum staffing standards and other associated costs with projected student enrollment to estimate the amount of costs that the divisions must spend, and also further explain how the state provides a portion of the funding and the local governments are required to provide the rest. They stressed that this model is how effective the model is based and dependent upon having adequate standards with the formula that reflects actual costs of school divisions. um, the main points of this article, the authors pointed out how lawmakers made changes to the SRQs since 2009, and these changes led to reduced funding and provided to the local districts from the state. It also called for a return back to the SOQ formula in which the amount is actually reflected on the running costs. The amount of running costs is actually reflected in what the schools are actually paying. um, Before 2009, the SOQs used a prevailing practice. In 2004, a review of the JLARC concluded that school divisions' practices and expenditures for non-instructional support services in Virginia appeared to be neither inadequate or excessive, so they were working well. In 2009, the lawmakers changed the formula by placing a cap on funding for many of the support staff needed from schools. During this first year of this cap, the state cut funding for approximately 12,900 support positions, which was a decrease of 36%. That left the local governments having to fully fund those positions or cut them. Only 5 school divisions had reported staffing levels below that new state cap in 2016, thus showing the cap was not prevailing practice according to the authors. That means that the school divisions were needing a lot more support staff than what the SRQs were saying they needed, and they were having to either not have those positions or fund them themselves. That new cap was based on the ratio of how many instructional staff that schools needed to have in order to meet class size requirements. They claim that this ratio was flawed because it does not take into account the staffing of support staff needed to maintain a functional, safe environment. They say that cap is arbitrary and does not represent the actual cost and not based upon the estimated number of needed support staff from a school division. In 2010, the state decided to exclude certain equipment, including furniture, motor vehicles, staff travel, and including professional development from a formula, and that cut an additional $122 million annually. The state also increased the lifespan of school buses from 12 to 15 years. Now, a study from the JLARC in 2004 found that the average school districts in Virginia needed to replace their buses every 12 years, so 12 years was a better number. And also reduce the state incentive program for schools for providing smaller class sizes, reducing the monies that schools were getting in order to do these smaller class sizes. The 2010 cuts were estimated to have a 2-year impact of $1.6 billion in decreased state support for school divisions by the Senate Finance Committee. That's $800 million per year. Of these cuts, $686 million were in the SOQ formula. The authors called for the state to return the SOQ formula to a model where it was more accurately predicts what running costs of the school, what our school actually costs. And when the requirements set in the SRQ do not reflect what districts must actually provide to educate our students, divisions are left footing the bill on their own. In many cases, this leads to fewer support staff, larger class sizes, and deteriorating facilities. So getting the appropriate numbers